Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, on behalf of the University of the West Indies and the Republic Bank Limited, our sponsor and their Power to Make a Difference program, let me welcome you to our LinkedIn session, Developing Your LinkedIn Profile for Professional Engagement. I want to introduce you to our presenter this afternoon, Mr. Sohail Mahirali, who is currently an onboarding consultant at Sission and a part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion team at Sission, one of the world's largest marketing tech companies. Prior to his role at Sission, Sohail was previously on the learning and development team at Dell, where he got to help train over 100 people at Dell and was awarded as a top performer and had the opportunity of training in Panama, UK, and Italy. Sohail graduated from the University of Texas at San Antonio, where he majored in communications and minored in non-profit management and business management. During his undergrad experience, Sohail completed 3 internships at a nonprofit, a healthcare consulting firm, and a marketing agency. Sohail also volunteers actively as an alumni. Guys, you're hearing that? Active alumni volunteering for his business fraternity, Alpha Kappa Psi, and also works with a group to help South Asian first generation students break into the corporate world. So I want to introduce you and hand you over to our facilitator for this afternoon session, Sohail.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Really an honor to be here. I'm currently in Austin, Texas, where it's super sunny. So excited to be here and enjoy enjoy the next few hours with y'all. So this is going to be a fun workshop. So what we'll do is we will talk through on this idea of what is LinkedIn, how do you use it, and what are some of the different powerful parts of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a platform that's actually a lot bigger than people think. There's so many different parts to LinkedIn. We could spend literally a session on every single part of LinkedIn. But what I want to do is I want to take us to a very foundational level. For those of you who don't have a LinkedIn profile, think of this as your professional version of a Facebook or an Instagram. This is your place to really show who you are and really brand yourself. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be talking about it in a few different approaches. We're going to be talking about the LinkedIn profile. What are the different parts of it? How can you really stand out? The next part, we're going to be talking about the networking aspect. Networking is so important now. In the US in particularly, 80% of jobs are actually filled through networking and a referral. So that means you reached out to someone like myself at my company and said, hey, Sahil, I want to work here. Can you refer me? I said, yes. Okay. We talked it over. You send me your resume. I submit it. And then you get a referral from there and you get accepted. That's how 80% of jobs. So just take that into context, right? If there are 10 jobs available, 8 of them is through who you know, 2 of them is through the luck of applying. So you want to make sure that you separate yourself from the who you know and be in that specific group overall. The next part about LinkedIn, which we're going to be talking about, is how do you use it as a place to personally brand? How do you use it to network? How do you use it to have these conversations overall? And the last part, which we're going to be talking about, is how to find a job on LinkedIn. What are the different parts that you could do? And you're going to see how all of these intertwine together. That's going to be a very important part about the LinkedIn platform overall. So when it comes to LinkedIn, just like Facebook or just like Instagram, you're going to have your very own profile. What I want to do is I want to talk through from top to bottom on how a LinkedIn profile is supposed to look ideally. So the very first part of a LinkedIn profile is going to be your headshot. It's going to be that profile picture. Um, when it comes to LinkedIn, LinkedIn has changed over the years. Before it was to have a very serious picture, almost like a passport picture, something that really just shows who you are. This is your face. But as LinkedIn is starting to transform, you still want to have a professional headshot, but you really want it to really show a little bit of your personality as well. So, for example, you're going to want to possibly have a picture of, if, for example, if you love doing graphic design, you may want to have a design background, or you may want to have something of that sort. If you are interested in law, you may want to take your picture in front of the court office. So you really want to make sure that you provide your LinkedIn profile to really have everything going for you in that sense. You want to make sure that you are well dressed. You want to make sure that you are in business professional, so a suit and tie possibly. If you are wanting to do the more serious route, so does it have to be a formal suit and tie? Can it be working in a lab? So there is no 100% yes or no answer. But what I would love to do is sort of kind of think that a little further. So if you were on the opposite end, if you were reviewing resumes and you click on somebody's LinkedIn profile, is this a picture that represents the person well? So, for example, for a researcher, having it in your coat, but still being professional, where you're standing against, like, you're standing in a clear area, there's nobody behind you, nobody else in the picture, that can work as a great picture overall. If you are usually traditionally like a business student, you are going to want to go more suit and tie. So it really just depends on the industry you're in and the image you're trying to pull. That's a whole thing about LinkedIn, which I really want everybody to think about. It's not necessarily what am I putting out there, but think of it from the opposite lens. If somebody is reading my profile, what are they really seeing? And that's where the game changer idea is. Because if you could start thinking, oh, this type of company would look at me this way, then you're going to be able to sort of kind of help craft that narrative yourself. The next part is going to be the headline of your LinkedIn profile. For those of y'all who are currently interning or anything like that, that's super easy. You could say financial analyst intern at Valero or at Dell or at Apple. Um, if you are somebody who's looking for a role itself, you may want to put a few of the positions that you're interested in. So, aspiring financial analyst or consultant, um, and student. So, and like studying finance, for example. So, for example, in the LinkedIn profile checklist, it shows econ major and aspiring financial analyst. The reason why this is so important is because when recruiters are looking at LinkedIn profiles and whenever they're actually searching for candidates, they put in these key terms. So, for example, who shows up when I do financial analyst? So, you want to make sure that the job you want is in the job, is in your headline. So, if you want to be a recruiter, you want to put aspiring recruiter. If you want to put, if you want to be a pediatrician, you want to put aspiring pediatrician. So that way it shows exactly where do you want to do with your career. As a student right now in university, whether it's your undergrad or grad, or even high school, you have the ability to really help show, look, this is where I want to be one day. And that's what's going to help really craft your narrative at the end of the day. The next part, the next part I want to talk through is the idea of your summary. So your summary is going to be a very important part of your LinkedIn profile. So your summary is a place for you on your LinkedIn where you are able to really help shape your story. So over here, you're going to be able to put about 2 to 3 paragraphs exactly talking about who you are and what kind of roles you are looking for. So let's talk through the example in the LinkedIn checklist, which I dropped in the chat. I am a senior at Berkeley, starting to look for roles in the financial industry. As an economics major, I'm fascinated in the invisible forces that shape our world. Why does one company succeed and another fail? Is it possible to predict which idea will be the next big thing? So in that example summary, we have learned what is the person currently doing, where are they studying, what do they want to do with their career, and why do they want to do that? You want to be careful here, however. So for example, say if you are an accounting student who wants to work at a big accounting firm, you don't want to put, but then when you apply to a small business or a medium-sized business and be like an internal accountant, you want to make sure your summary reflects both. So in your summary, if you put I want to work at a large financial accounting firm, you're basically telling this other medium small sized business, I don't actually want to work for you, I'm just here because I need a job. So you want to make sure that your profile really talks about both and your summary really has that. Summaries take a very long time to really well craft. So feel free, it's never going to be perfect. Keep working through it. It's going to be a really awesome opportunity for you to really start crafting who you are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in the chat another great tool. It's called Grammarly. It's a tool which helps you clear your writing errors. So, for example, if there is a grammatical error in the way you're spelling or the way you're using commas, Grammarly is your way to help fix that. And it's going to be a really great way for you, especially when you're dropping your about your summary section. The next part about the LinkedIn profile, I really want to spend time talking about experiences. There is no such thing as having too little experience shown on your LinkedIn profile. So if you were a cashier at a small restaurant, or if you were a waiter at a restaurant or something like that, that is completely okay. You're showing your story, you're showing where you came from, especially as a student. You want to show that, hey, look, I maybe was working while I was in college. So along with taking classes during the day, I was scooping ice cream at night, or I was working at a restaurant at night. So it really helps show that you're multifaceted. You have the ability to manage your time. When it comes to your experience, though, it's really important to really think through on what you want to talk about. So when you look through, again, I'm referencing the checklist again, you're going to have the name of the internship or the name of the role. So for example, I'm just going to use McDonald's. So I was a cashier at McDonald's, plain and simple. The next, it's going to ask you a little bit about what you did. So they don't necessarily want to know that McDonald's is a restaurant. I was flipping burgers. But what you do definitely want to talk about is a little bit more than that. So, for example, what are those transferable skills that you learned at where you worked and how you're going to apply it to where you want to work one day? So, say, for example, if you want to work at Cision, what you could do is you could say, look, in my team, I work a lot with groups of people. So, for example, at McDonald's, I used to work in multiple people. We had 20 people on our team, and we were always there during the busiest peak hour, and we were able to help everybody in less than 3 minutes of standing in line. That shows a lot of different things. It shows that you're able to work in a fast-paced environment. It shows that you're able to work in a team, and that directly relates back to what I do. So if you can't show that this is a very specific example, if you can't show that, look, I did this exactly at my old role, you want to talk about those transferable parts. So what I really recommend is when you are going through your LinkedIn profile, grab 5 or 6 job descriptions of the job that you want to do one day. So say, for example, if you want to get a job as a legal clerk at a law firm, take a few of those job descriptions, see exactly what they're asking, and then draft your previous work experiences to that. So, for example, if they are asking you to be detail oriented, you may want to talk about a job where you were maybe a tutor before, and you were able to review exams and grade papers and help students understand and articulate their information. So again, you want to see where those comparisons come from, and you want to be able to draft those experiences. A really great part about LinkedIn is the ability to add attachments to your LinkedIn profile as well. So, for example, say if you want to work in marketing and you've previously worked at a marketing agency before, or you like to design and you like to make graphics, or you like to do photography, what you could actually do is attach the work that you've previously done on your LinkedIn profile. So, for example, say if you used to work at ABC digital media marketing firm and you are now trying to apply at Apple to go be a marketing professional, what you could do is you could show that, look, this is all the previous work that I've done, because it helps out in two ways. The first is that it helps and shows that you were able to actually do the role itself. Like, look, you don't need to have any doubts that I can do it, because look, this is my work right over here and I'm going to kill it if you hire me. The second part to that, it shows that you put in the effort. If you put together a portfolio or anything like that, that's a really great opportunity for you to really put those together. So, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're also adding as many numbers. So that way it shows that you've worked in a big group as well. Or, for example, in a group of 5 individuals. So it's really important that you're able to identify some of those keywords. So that's a challenge for anybody who already has a LinkedIn profile. Look at your current LinkedIn profile and look at your dream job that you want in a year or two. Not something that you want 10 years from now, but something that you want very soon, and see how many keywords am I using to describe my old job. You want to use a lot of great terminology to really help relate to the role overall. The next part I want to talk about is your organizations. Being involved is super, super important. I know right now with the pandemic, it could be definitely really tough to sort of kind of to be involved, but definitely find ways, whether it's giving back to your community, working with kids in your community as well, and tutoring, teaching, doing cleanups, anything like that. So it's a really great way for you to start framing those organizations and to show. Because, for example, what if one day somebody is interviewing you and sees, oh, I used to volunteer with that church as well. Or, hey, I used to be a part of that club during college as well, like the finance club or the investments club or the feed the hunger club, for example. So it's really important for you to start thinking through these volunteer experiences and these organizations that you want to be a part of. The next part is going to be your education. Education is super important. If you have a good GPA, you definitely want to show your GPA. You also want to show the relevant classes you did, especially if you're a first year or second year student. You may sometimes get overlooked by the third year and fourth years when it comes to your applications. But if you could show, hey, I've already taken accounting, I already know how to do this, please consider me. So that way it shows you as the student that, look, I know what I'm doing. I'm very smart. I'm very bright. I think I'm ready to do this. So having those courses actually sort of kind of verifies that, look, I did well. I got an A or a B in the class. This is why you should hire me. So you want to keep those in mind as well. And then the last one is projects. For those of y'all who are currently looking to do something like engineering, you're most likely building a lot of projects. Or same thing with the people studying computer science. You're building out websites, you're building out code. You want to be able to present these on your LinkedIn profile. The reason why is that, say if I was a recruiter, what you can maybe do from here is look through is, as a recruiter, I could be like, okay, is Sahil the best fit for this role? He has some of his work experience here. Let's check it out. Oh, okay, Sahil knows how to do this. He's done this previously. Like, let's definitely bring him on board. So, what I want to do is definitely challenge y'all. For those of y'all who have worked on projects before, for those of y'all who have definitely written code before, try to put it together and really make sure it's on your LinkedIn profile, because that's really going to make all the difference at the end of the day. The last part I want to talk through is this idea of recommendations. So with recommendations, this is going to be super important. Where if you have somebody who can advocate for you, if you have somebody who you've worked with, whether it was a professor, whether it was a previous manager or something, they could actually write reviews about you and post it on your LinkedIn profile. So not only does it show, not only are you saying that, hey, Sahil, are you really good at, like, they're not going to be thinking, hey, is Sahil the best fit? They could actually see that, hey, Sahil is actually the best fit at the end of the day. So when it comes to your LinkedIn profile, you really want to make sure that you have each and every single part of your LinkedIn ready to go, and you really work on it to the best of your ability.
So one of the students wanted to know if you would recommend using videos and pictures as attachments in addition to the documents.
Yeah, so I would recommend it as long as it's relevant. So, for example, if you are applying for a finance position, and if you're an accounting student and you like to do photography on this, like if you're a finance student and you do photography on the side, it may not be the most relevant, so you don't necessarily need it. But say, for example, if you're a student trying to go into graphic design and you have previous things that you've made, I would highly, highly recommend it. You are able to embed videos to an extent. What I would recommend is like uploading it to YouTube and then just attaching the link, just so that way it's also easily able to share as well. Did that help answer that question?
And I think it was pretty straightforward.
Perfect.
In terms of the answer. You got the question with the list of terms which you'll address. Another question, do historians and archaeologists have a harder time on LinkedIn? And how much exposure does this group get from the app?
That's a really good question. So I don't have an exact percentage of how many people are engaged on LinkedIn, but one thing to keep in mind is that it's still a great place to use for the database side and to still apply. So the reason why this comes in is because, especially if you're going to be a historian or archaeologist, you're going to need to talk about your work. You're going to need to talk about who you are. And the next part, when we talk about the idea of branding yourself on LinkedIn and connecting with people on LinkedIn, this is going to be huge. So it's really important to think through on, even though there may be less historians on LinkedIn, the historians that are there, that's going to be a quality connection. And that's going to be a really great part. One thing we haven't even started talking about yet is LinkedIn groups and the ability to join groups with different types of people. So for example, I just searched it right now while we were talking. There is over 17 archaeologist groups on LinkedIn. I didn't even type in the word historian. So you could join these like-minded groups and connect with like-minded professionals. So it's really great. It is a really great platform. If you feel, obviously the business world is going to outweigh the total amount of users, but the quality of users when it comes to like these more niche communities is still going to be really awesome to experience.
Okay, great. So those are the questions so far. So I think we can continue.
Perfect. So what I want to do next is talk through this idea of, okay, my LinkedIn profile is ready to go. What can I do now? So this is going to be really important. So when it comes to LinkedIn, you're going to want to start connecting with people. So when it comes to connecting with people, this is going to be very important, because you don't just want to send somebody an invite without saying who you are, introducing yourself. When it comes to your LinkedIn profile, you actually have the ability to personalize a note to somebody. So whether you're using the app or whether you're using the website, whenever you connect with somebody, you have the ability to you have the ability to write out a personalized message. What I'm going to be doing is, if you listen to one thing which I say today, this is going to be that one part. Um, this is going to be my favorite resource in the world, which is over 30 different networking templates for emails and LinkedIn. This is going to have what to do after an interview. This is going to have how to introduce yourself to somebody. This is going to be anything and everything. This is an amazing resource for you to have, because in it, it's actually going to have the structure on how to introduce yourself. So, say for example, somebody reaches out to me, says, "Hey, Sahil, hope you're doing." And so, a good example of reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn: "Hey, Sahil, hope you're doing well." Then you want to talk about why you're connecting with the person. I saw that you currently work, or I saw that you currently work at Cision in as an onboarding consultant, which is a field I'm highly considering. Then you want to talk a little bit about yourself. I'm currently a third year student at UT San Antonio. That's where I went to undergrad. And I would love to connect with you to ask you a few questions about your day to day. You're asking your ask. Or I would love to connect with you and follow along to your story if you don't have an immediate question there. So it's a really great way for you to sort of kind of frame those conversations. Because think about it almost as like what our parents taught us growing up, where you're not supposed to talk to strangers, you're only supposed to talk to people you know. So you want to be sure that you are friendly and that you are telling them why you're connecting. So you don't want it to be a spam email. You want it to be genuine on why you're connecting with the person. So I am connecting with you because I would love to ask you about your transition from Dell to Cision, or I would love to ask you on how you enjoyed working at an at a marketing agency previously, or how you picked your major. So it's really important for you to really customize those messages and really start developing those relationships with these people. When you are looking for a project a year or two from now, and if you're already connected with historians and archaeologists, you could then reach out to somebody, because say if you've reached out before, they know who you are, they know of you. Hey, Emily, I'm currently looking for my next role. We've been connected for a year. This is everything that I've worked on. I would love to see if there's an opening for a project that you're working on. Or, for example, for those of y'all who want to go into the medical field, I'm looking to get my medical application reviewed before I submit it for medical school. So you really want to make sure that you're creating an impact for them, and you're giving them a reason on why they should follow you. So connecting with people is super, super important. What I will tell you though is that there's a better way than just cold messaging somebody. So by cold messaging, it's somebody you've never met, it's somebody you're just reaching out to just to reach out. And that second version is what we call a warm introduction. A warm introduction is when somebody introduces you to somebody. Aaron wants to get introduced to Haley, and I'm a mutual contact. So I'm a friend of Aaron's, and I'm a friend on LinkedIn with Haley. Basically, Aaron can ask me, "Hey, Sahil, I saw that you are connected with Haley. I would love to connect with her because I am looking to go into accounting, and I see that she's currently working at an accounting firm, which I would love to work at. I was hoping you'd be able to connect us, as I would love to have a conversation with her and learn a little bit more about her career." So now think about it like this: when Sahil reaches out to Haley, Haley is more likely to reply back, because now Sahil is making that introduction. She trusts Sahil and says, "Okay, hey, this is a really good introduction. I trust Sahil. He's a good person. So I'm going to take 20 minutes out of my day and talk to Aaron." So you really want to try to see on not necessarily who do you know, but who do your friends know? Who does your family members know? Who do people who work at your university, college know? So it really goes a long way to start thinking through. And LinkedIn does a really good job of that. So just some LinkedIn terminology: your first connections, think of it almost like your Facebook friends. These are immediate people that you know. If you have somebody as a second connection, That doesn't mean you're connected with them, but you have, just like on Facebook, mutual friends. So a mutual connection. And so this is a really great way for you to really start thinking through on how you could sort of kind of start formulating these relationships for the long term. The next part I want to talk about is this idea of LinkedIn groups and what are some of the other ways to network on LinkedIn. So, um, the one part that you really want to talk through is, look, how can we make sure that we are able to directly help out the people the people in our communities. So for example, I love talking to people about what I do. I love the marketing world. It's my passion. Like I will talk to anybody about marketing. So what these marketing professionals do is that they join these marketing groups where they have conversations about news in the media. So for example, for those of us who have iPhones, iOS 14 is going to have a new update, which is actually going to be stopping ads a lot. And it's actually going to be telling you if there is an ad. So companies like Facebook and all that kind of stuff, they're all very worried. There are hundreds of conversations right now in these LinkedIn groups happening. So if you are somebody who's an aspiring marketing student who just wants to learn and listen, this is a great place for you to really talk about, to really just listen and join in on the conversations. You could make a comment in the chat. You could maybe write your own post and post it in the groups as well. These marketing groups, for example, have really helped me. So, just a personal story, in the last few jobs, I've actually never actually applied for the job as a cold application. So, my very first job at an agency, I applied, I got it. My second one of my mutual, one of somebody who I knew, somebody in my network, posted about the job on LinkedIn. I reached out to him directly and said, "Hey, I'm interested." I didn't even fill out a formal application. I was able to immediately get an interview. My next role, it was actually because somebody who one of my family members knew and has previously worked with the person and they were a neighbor. So it was somebody that, okay, hey, yeah, send his application over and tell me as soon as he applies and I'll be able to bump him. So I immediately got a second round interview. So I got to skip the first interview overall. When I applied to Dell, same thing. I already knew the recruiter because I had them on LinkedIn. I was having conversations with them once every 2 to 3 months, and then really just building out those conversations from there. And then lastly, my last role, I saw the position open. I reached out to somebody and really just make sure that you're and I reached out and I would say, hey, I see this job position open. Can you refer me? One thing that we sometimes forget is we are so busy adding new contacts on LinkedIn, we never reach out to the people we've already been contacted with. So, what I recommend is 3 to 4 times a year, start reaching out to these people that you're connected with. Ask them how they're doing, ask them how they're liking their jobs, ask them how their families are. Ask them if they went on vacation this year. So start talking through on what's going on with them and start building those relationships. Because remember, if somebody's going to refer you, it's not because they saw you once. And so for example, if you think about it, if I reached out to Kimberly just once and said, hey, I would love to be a connect, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn, she accepts my invite. I don't reach out for 8 months. She forgot who I am. I'm just another friend on her friends list at this point, or another connect on her connection list. So, what you want to do is make sure that you're really fostering and building these relationships. So, if you're talking to somebody that you already know, maybe you want to check in once every 2 to 3 months. You maybe not want to check in every single month. But if it's somebody whose company you really want to work at, somebody you don't necessarily know, you may want to put in the extra effort and have a lot more conversations at the end of the day. So, same thing with these LinkedIn groups as well now. And I want to bring it back to that. Start finding groups that you associate with. So, for example, they have a group for future medical professionals or medical professionals. If you're wanting to be a doctor one day, that's a great group for you to be in and start connecting with these doctors, with these physicians, with these pharmacists, and start talking with them about what's going on in the industry, how they're enjoying it, what advice they could give you. So you could start asking these questions that you have along the way. I was a first generation student Both of my parents didn't go to college. So it was something that I was doing this all by myself. And I know that's where a lot of y'all come from as well. In terms of in terms of you may have questions on what to do with your career path. You may not know anybody who's been a previous XYZ before. You want to make sure that every time you reach out, you provide value. So one of my favorite things to do is, again, I work in the marketing world. And so it's that, okay, hey, I want to reach out to all these marketing professionals. So what I'll do is I'll find an article that I really like about marketing, and I'll send it to these people, and I'll be like, hey, here's this article. I thought of you. Would love your feedback on it and what your thoughts are. So instead of just having a hey, how's your family? Like, how are you? Weather is nice kind of conversation, you may be learning from the conversation as well, and you may be showing them something that they've never heard. So you want to make sure that you're being very tactical in why you're reaching out to somebody. Essentially, what you're doing is you're having these conversations. So Sahil posted a post, Naomi commented, and then Karishma commented, and then Ariane commented. So they're all coming into one feed right over here, and then you can sort of like have conversation in the comments of the comments. Why should somebody add you if they don't know you? Do you have a picture? Did you write a personalized message on why you're trying to connect with them? Is their profile completely filled out every single section? So you want to make sure that whoever has this part really has the information that they need. So you want to make sure you have all the information that you need to really reply back holistically and make sure that you have all the information. So for example, say if I reach out to you, you don't know who I am. Okay, Sahil has a headshot. You can actually see what people post on LinkedIn on their personal feeds. So Sahil posts a lot on LinkedIn. So it seems like he's pretty active. He went to university. He works at a cool company, or he works at a boring company. So you could actually see that, okay, hey, this person is actually legitimate. At the end of the day, every person uses LinkedIn differently. So for example, I try not to connect with people if I don't know them or if I don't have a reason to know them. So for example, um, if you send me an invite and I don't know you, and you didn't write a personalized message, I'm most likely going to delete it. That's just a very honest truth, because I don't want to have a profile with a lot of different people. Some people love that. Some people love having as many connections as possible. So it really comes down to how you choose to use your LinkedIn. There's no wrong answer, but as long as you are finding value out of it at the end of the day. What do you, in regards to references, what do you do if you were on bad terms with a previous employer? Um, I just wouldn't reach out to that employer for a recommendation. I would find somebody else. So LinkedIn lets you, it doesn't have to be your boss recommending you. It could be a coworker. If you had a really good relationship with a coworker, you worked with them on every single shift, they know how good of a worker you are, they could be the one to write you a recommendation. If you had a teacher whose class you did really well in, you may want to ask them to be the recommendation. It doesn't necessarily always have to be your manager who writes the recommendation itself. So don't feel that you may be trapped in, oh, what if I get a bad review or something? You also get to approve the recommendation before it goes on your profile. So if you thought somebody was going to write you a nice recommendation and they're like, oh, Sahil is a horrible employee, don't hire him, you don't have to worry about that. You can delete that. Nobody will ever see it because you actually approve it before it goes up. Somebody who reaches out to you and they don't have enough information on the profile, I would check it. It's 100% your decision. If you choose to accept, if you choose to ignore, some people just aren't that great at filling out their LinkedIn profiles. Some people just may have set it up the other day. So it's really your decision on if you choose to accept. That's a situation I personally may not accept. At the bare minimum, have a picture, but sort of kind of just going from there. So the last part I want to talk about, which I think is one of the most powerful parts about LinkedIn, is the ability to find jobs. So LinkedIn Jobs is an amazing website built in. What you could actually do is you could search the job titles you're looking for, you could search the locations you're looking for, and it'll provide you any of the companies that are currently hiring in your area. So say, for example, if you want to be an accountant, or if you want to be a civil engineer, so you could type civil engineer New York City. And then from there, it'll show you a list of all the companies in New York looking for a civil engineer. And then what you could do is you could actually apply directly on LinkedIn. Either it'll let you apply in the website or it'll take you to the company. So, say a big corporation, it might take you back to their website overall. The reason why LinkedIn is really, really, really helpful here is because, say, for example, if you and I are connected on LinkedIn, and if you see a position on LinkedIn that my company is hiring, you may want to take a second and be like, wait, I have a mutual connection. Sahil is my mutual connection. Instead of me cold applying, I could ask Sahil, hey, can I get some more information? And can you possibly refer me? Again, the reason why this is so important is because 80% of jobs are actually filled through referrals, if you remember that statistic in the beginning. So you really want to show that you have this ability to go through and see that, okay, hey, this is what's going on. This is the company I want to go for. I know this person who works here. Maybe they could refer me, and that's going to put you in a whole nother pile, and that could be even more impactful. LinkedIn makes it very easy for you. It's a one-stop shop for everything. The one thing I will say though is that when it comes to positions, you have to be very specific on the title, and you may have to do multiple searches to get different results. I'll take engineering as an example because I know I haven't talked about that one too much yet. So, for example, if you're a civil engineer, you want to type up civil engineer, you want to type in entry level civil engineering jobs, and you want to type in engineering and training, like an EIT. So that way it'll show you all different types of jobs because people put it in different ways. For everybody studying computer science, you could be a full stack developer, you could be a front end developer, you could do Java, you could do Python. So all these different, or you could just be a software engineer, cybersecurity. You could type in all of these specific types of jobs and then get customized lists, and then you could apply. So what I really recommend is keeping in mind those top 5 job positions that you want and then using those as your search terms. Especially now with the pandemic, I really recommend looking for remote opportunities. That's a really great way for you to possibly stay in your city or even move to a completely different city and work at a company that's remote or a company that's based somewhere else. It really helps provide you the ability to really look from wherever. So LinkedIn Jobs is a really great tool. It does take time getting used to. It's hard to find people on LinkedIn. You don't know who's a recruiter. You don't know sometimes what company or anything like that. This is a database of over 2,000 recruiters, specifically in the tech world. So if you want to go into finance, engineering, software, marketing, this is a gold mine for all of you. So whenever you open it up, it'll actually sort it by company and you'll actually be able to see. Keep in mind, a lot of these are based in the US, but now think of it like this. If you don't want to move to the US, what you could do is you could identify the company, reach out to the recruiter and say, can you please connect me with the local recruiter in X country or in X city? Say if you want to go to Europe, say if you want to go to Brazil. You have all of these different opportunities that you could then start using and use these recruiters as your key, as your gateway to the places that you want to go. Keep in mind as well, recruiters don't only recruit for one place. For example, recruiters who work in the US also recruit for positions in the UK or in Canada as well. So definitely don't think that there's borders, especially anymore. You could recruit from all over the place. You could find all these amazing people from all over you're looking to go. This is one of my favorite resources to use. It's called a networking tracker. So keeping up with people is really tough. And sometimes you're like, look, I don't know, like, especially these important people that you really want to stay connected with. You're like, how do I remember to keep up with them? How do I remember a conversation I had 6 months ago? I really recommend using a networking tracker. And what you could do in this networking tracker is you could actually type in, all right, what's this person's name? What do they do? What company they're at? And let's write a little bit of the conversation. So for example, Sahil loves doing, like, so every summer I take about a month or two off and I do summer camps. I help out with little kids between the ages of 6 to 13. So, for example, if somebody reaches out to me in August, you could reach out to me and say, "Hey, Sahil, hope you had a great summer. How did camp go?" So, not only is it a personalized message, but you're also able to keep that as a scheduled follow up. You could write dates on it as well. So, say for example, another one is that somebody said, "Hey, it's a little early for you to apply to my company right now. Apply in 6 months." You can put it on the calendar and say, "Okay, I'm going to reach out to Leah in 6 months at this time because that's when they told me to." What do I think about LinkedIn Learning? I think LinkedIn Learning is a great resource, but it does come with a price. You do have to pay for it, but by month. I'm very big on not referring people to things if they have to pay for it. There are alternatives. So, for example, you could use Khan Academy, you could use Coursera. There are a lot of other great resources as well. LinkedIn Learning courses are very impactful if you do want to make the monetary investment. So I don't want to necessarily say I want everybody to pull out their credit cards right now and start buying LinkedIn Learning. If you think it's going to be helpful for you, if you think it's going to help you learn the skill that you need, and if you're willing to pay for the course and you couldn't find it for free on another website, like which I'd mentioned, definitely start going from there. How do you sort of stay active on LinkedIn? What does this networking look like? How often should you be posting? So when it comes to posting on LinkedIn, there's a few key facets to really look at. So the first is this idea of what should I even be posting? Um, and there is no wrong answer, minus a few things. So some LinkedIn ground rules, they recommend to not talk about politics. So whether you feel X way or Y way, sort of kind of keep those to yourself. You don't want to speak of hate. So you don't want to speak against of a race. You don't want to be speaking against of a religion. But this is your platform to really talk about yourself and your journey. So I see so many awesome posts every single day of people talking about what they learned today at work, what they learned in school. That's a really great place to start because, for example, say if you're taking a course on what's something I haven't talked about let's say if you're learning about software and you finally finished your big project in coding in Java, write a LinkedIn post about it. Hey, I just spent the last 3 weeks. I built out this really cool website, and I really was able to put this all together. It was a really great resource, and really able to bring it all together. You could then drop the resource, tag people that you know. They could comment, they could like. It really gets that going. One thing which I personally do on LinkedIn, and again, this is what I do. I only post on LinkedIn about once or twice a week. And what I'll do is I'll post an article which I found interesting and I will write a little bit about my thoughts and then I'll ask a question saying, how do other people feel about XYZ? And then let people sort of kind of have those conversations and start a dialogue within the comments section. So it really comes into a lot of what this is overall and how you want to brand it. I saw a question about having LinkedIn business versus LinkedIn personal pages. Um, to help answer that person's question, you need a LinkedIn profile to even make a business profile. So definitely recommend starting with your own LinkedIn profile. But say, for example, if you have a brand, like say if you have your own fashion company, say, for example, you have your own tutoring service, say, for example, if you have your own small business, you could make a LinkedIn page and then I'd recommend posting about it on 2 to 3 times a week, sort of kind of post content about what you do, success stories, anything like that as well. I want to talk a little bit more about this networking aspect. So, what do I do with this network that I've built? How do I have these conversations? So, what I've done, and I'm pulling it up as we're talking, I've written down personally what I think are the best things which you could do. So, speaking online only goes so far, but having a face-to-face conversation over Zoom, over Google Hangouts, or over Skype, or whatever you want to use, can really make an impact. So, say for example, somebody who's studying law wants to connect with a lawyer, reach out to them on LinkedIn, use the networking templates which I said, and you're able to drop them exactly, hey, this is the type of this is the message. I would love to connect with you. Spend 20 minutes of your time, set up a meeting invite, and then have these different conversations. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out some of my favorite questions. Can you tell me a little bit about your day to day and what you do? The reason why that question is so good is because we know what a lawyer does. They solve problems. They go through court cases. But what do they do on a day to day? What does that look like? So that question, for example, if you are wanting to study software, will actually tell you what does this look like overall. The next best question, which I would ask, is what do you love most about your job? What part of your job is really great that you really love talking about? So definitely, this gives them an opportunity to really highlight, I love doing this. This is my favorite part. And you could see if that's a good fit for you. You could see, would I enjoy myself doing this every single day? So that's a really important question to ask to really help learn. The next part is, what types of events do you find valuable? Do you attend conferences? Do you attend happy hours? Do you attend these types of events to help you grow in your career? Because if you look up to this person and want to say, I want to be like this person in 3 years, you want to start looking at what they're doing on the day to day. Are they going to a lawyer meetup once a month? Are they a part of an association like Lawyers in Texas, for example, and they have like virtual workshops? So you want to find and see what these people are doing so you can sort of have those same conversations with them. Another great question is, what is next for you in your career? Sometimes we know what we want to do 20 years from now, and sometimes we know what we want to do in the next year, but we don't know what's going to happen in that 5, 10, 15-year mark. Even myself, if you ask me, I don't know what's next. Like, I know what I want to do next, but I don't know what I want to do after that, after that. So asking somebody as well on what is next for you in your career. So if this person's 3 to 5 years out from you, and if you're asking them what they want to do in 5 years, that helps you sort of kind of develop your career trajectory. Does this lawyer want to start their own firm? Does this person want to go into a second conversation? Um, the next question, and now this is a little bit more tactical, is how does recruiting work at your company? So, say, for example, if you want to apply to Microsoft, you could then ask the person, hey, Mr. Microsoft, when do applications open? Do you know, for this specific role that I'm looking for? Okay, how long is the interview process? Should I know what I'm like? Should I know, okay, I'm going to be spending the next 3 months. I shouldn't expect to hear back for 2 to 3 weeks. Then I'll hear. If you could start figuring out what these recruiting processes are, you could be ahead of the game. Because if you really want to work at a company, you could know ahead of time, okay, applications for Microsoft open on September 1st. That means by August 15th, I need my resume good to go. I want it to be perfect. I want it to make sure that you have everything good. So asking about recruitment processes is super important. And so that way you know exactly what to look for. Um, then the next one is, what skills do you recommend for me to improve on over the next few months? So if you are looking to have this conversation, and say if you really want to, and I'll take the example of computer science. Say, for example, if they say, I do this, 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 and you're like, oh, wait, I don't know Java. You can ask them, hey, what are the skills that you recommend? And if they say Java, that tells you this is the first thing that you need to learn. Same thing if you're in finance. If they tell you, I use VLOOKUPs and pivot tables every single day, that's the first thing you need to go learn, because they're telling you exactly, this is what I do in my job. So if you want their job, you know exactly the type of skills that you need. Um, the last two questions is, which are my favorite, which I call like the closing questions, is, what advice do you have for me? Sometimes those conversations go in certain directions. Open it back up. Ask, hey, what advice do you have for somebody like me who is an aspiring financial analyst, or somebody who is something who wants to go into this field overall? Um, the last question is there anybody in your network that you would be willing to introduce me to that you think that I could have a conversation with? And this question is super important because if you could connect with one person and they could connect you with three others, think about that like a pyramid scheme. You are now growing your own network just by going like this. So it's like, okay, hey, Sahil introduced me to Kimberly. Kimberly introduced me to Leah. Leah introduced me to Mark. Mark introduced me to Luann. Luann introduced me to Randy. Randy introduced me to Rachel. You're now letting your own network. So instead of having to find these people and message them on LinkedIn randomly, ask these people to make connections for you. But know that not all of them will work out. So if you ask 10 people to make introductions, maybe four do it. And that way you have four more people to talk to. So that's a really important point. But these are some of my favorite questions to ask when you're setting up these conversations for these coffee chats, or what I call like a virtual coffee chat. So hopefully this helps. So the last part I want to talk about, as we wrap up today's conversation, is something which I'm sort of kind of seeing in pockets. So people asking, what if I don't know what I want to do? What if I have two or three different things I'm interested in? So I want to sort of answer it in a bulk way. So at the end of it, your LinkedIn profile is your profile at the end of it. So even if you don't know what you want to do, I highly recommend having one. The most you could do is you don't need to put aspiring whatever. You could just put, I'm an economics student, I'm a business student, I'm a computer science student. Just put what you want to do or what you're currently studying. At least start from there. At least put your future job, so at least put your previous experience, and at least have that profile, just so that way you could start connecting with people who you already know and have that profile there. Because as soon as that light switches and you know exactly what you want, your profile is already ready. You don't need to spend 2-3 days building out your profile. When it comes to the question is when I don't know what I want to do, this is a question on sort of self-reflection at that point, on what does this look like? What do I want my profile to go for? Very honestly, my profile is set up in two different directions as well. I haven't decided, even for me, what's next in my career. Maybe I want to go in this direction. Maybe I want to go in this direction. And that's completely okay. So if you look at my profile, I don't have an aspiring, etc. But I have all my experiences laid out and they talk about both roles. And so that way, whichever one, when I feel I'm ready to go for, I'm able to make that jump. And I think that's one thing which I definitely want to talk about. Nobody on LinkedIn, unless like you somehow connected with like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, is going to have a complete career. Everybody is looking for what's next. Everybody is setting their goals. Because if you think about it, whenever you set a goal and you achieve that goal, you're going to have a new goal set. So you really just know that, don't think of these people on LinkedIn as like, oh my God, they're like gods and they're like these amazing professionals. They're human. And you're connecting with real life human at the end of the day. Ask them about their career journeys, ask them about what's next for them in their career. And everybody's going through this process. Even a lot of people who are directors and VPs, they don't know what they want to do next. They just want to be in their current role. They're currently happy, and then they want to go from there. So don't think that, oh my God, I need to pick one direction or the other. Do a little bit of both and do a little bit of really what makes you happy, as long as your profile is professional and as long as your profile really tells a narrative on who you are.
Okay, great. So I was just as the students, just listening in and taking everything in. So we've been recording some of the questions. Someone wanted you to give your thoughts on LinkedIn Learning. They wanted you to go a little more in depth on LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah, so I'll start off with what is LinkedIn Learning, just for those of you who don't know what it is. So LinkedIn Learning is basically an online platform for you to take mini courses. So you could take a course on Google Analytics, you could take a course on Python, you could take a course on water resource management if you're an engineer, for example. It'll give you a certificate of completion. LinkedIn Learning is a great tool. There's no doubt that it's a very great and powerful tool. The thing is that it comes with a cost. I think it's like 20 to 30 US dollars a month at minimum to have. So it does get pricey over time. So one thing which I recommend is that there are alternatives. Coursera is currently running a promotion that it's free for students, I believe, for up to 3 or 4 months.
Right.
There are other resources as well where you can also get these same certificates. LinkedIn Learning is a great platform. I used to use it, but it's really, do you want to invest in those dollars? So I sort of want to leave that one a little more open-ended, but it is a great platform.
Okay, great. And someone else wanted you again to go a little more in depth into being a part of the subgroups on LinkedIn, depending on careers.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So for example, and I'm just gonna open up my own LinkedIn just so that way I can just sort of like name some of the groups that I'm in. So for example, I am in a group called Public Relations and Communication Professionals. So this is a group of people who work in marketing, who work in PR, and in the group, I am seeing people host their own events. I'm seeing events just for members of our group. I'm seeing people posting jobs at their company that relates to marketing PR. I'm seeing people post articles like this person put the future of data in marketing. I'm seeing a whole bunch of different conversations. Somebody asked a question on, does anybody know of any internships right now? So being a part of a group really puts you in a community of professionals. So say, for example, if you don't know marketing professionals and you really want to study marketing, going into a group like this will automatically open your doors and really provide you these people to look at. So it'll put you in front of people that you wouldn't normally be in front of. So it really helps you grow your network at the end of the day and provides you like one thing which one thing which I really say is whenever you join a group, listen a bunch before you speak. Look, understand the culture of the group, see what they talk about, see what's popular in the group, what's not popular, and then start asking your questions. Start chiming in the comment section and then ask your question. Build up your presence. You don't just want to jump in and be like, hey, I'm new. I'm looking to get hired. Who wants to hire me? Like, they're going to delete you like right then and there. But build up your profile, build up who you are in the group, and then go from there. And it takes time. Sometimes it could be 2 weeks, sometimes it could be 2 months before you feel comfortable posting. Kathy, I'll pass it back over.
Just staying active if they need to build a schedule to be active on LinkedIn and to remain relevant in the groups.
So this comes, so that's a really good question as well when it comes to how often. It comes down to what is your purpose of using LinkedIn? Are you looking for it to find a job? Are you looking for it to connect to people? Are you looking for it to become a thought leader? So for example, if you are somebody who wants to become like LinkedIn famous and start posting content, you may want to post every day or every 2 times a day. But if you are looking for just to stay relevant, once a week is fine. Once every 2 weeks is fine as well. You don't want to stress yourself out trying to find things to post because you have more important things to worry about, like your schoolwork, for example. So find out what works for you, find out your spot, start having these. And for example, I have a post that got 1,000 likes on LinkedIn, and then the very next post I posted got 10 likes on LinkedIn. And it's so random, and you don't know how it's going to happen. So keep trying different things, post different things, but don't stress yourself out about making a schedule or anything unless you're trying to be very intentional in creating your brand or something.
Okay, great. If you are using LinkedIn for job search and you have included your professional summary in your LinkedIn profile, do you still need to include it on your resume or CV?
So what I recommend is that your resume, CV, and your LinkedIn should be compatible with one another, but not the same exact thing. So, for example, on your CV, you only have like this much room to write a professional summary, like maybe this much room. But your LinkedIn about section could be a lot longer. It could be 2 to 3 paragraphs. So, I highly recommend don't copy and paste what's on your CV and post it on LinkedIn. Craft a narrative instead. What is something that you didn't get to talk about on your CV or you feel that you could talk more to and write that on your LinkedIn? Let them complement each other. Don't copy and paste.
Okay, great. What would be the added benefit of investing in LinkedIn Premium?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. So LinkedIn Premium, again, it's a paid subscription. I believe it's like $40 a month or $30 a month US, it really helps you start developing some more access points. So for example, you're able to connect with anybody, you have special access to other platforms as well, special jobs as well. Um, my my personal opinion is it's not worth it at unless you want to pay for it. I think again, I'm not fond of making people pay for things because regular LinkedIn website provides you more than enough resources. LinkedIn Premium sort of gives you it will give you an advantage, but it comes down to is the cost of it worth it, which oftentimes is a no.
Can you post past projects you've done, and where can you post these?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on the section that you want to post. For example, if you previously did a school project, you may want to post that in your coursework section or in your education section. LinkedIn also offers what they call a featured section, which is at the very top of your profile. So if this is a project you really want to show, you could do that there. If you did something at work and you built something, so say if you've previously done an internship, you could then post that on your you could then post that under the experience itself. So say for example, if you posted on say if you did an internship and you did like a data analytics project, you could post that underneath the experience of that project itself.
I think you said LinkedIn is going to look at in the upcoming months about being spammed on LinkedIn. People are asking them to join network marketing groups and so on. And how do you control that?
Yeah. So again, this is just you doing your homework. Google the company. Like what I like to do is if somebody reaches out to me and I've never heard of the company, I immediately Google it. And I just see if the company is real, check out the website, see if it's legitimate. Then I accept or deny. There are a lot of people who are trying to do scam businesses. There are a lot of people, and like LinkedIn can't stop everybody. It's just too big of a network. So be mindful. I get them all the time as well. Just delete it and move on. It happens though.
Okay, great. What tips would you give to determine if someone on LinkedIn actually wants to help you or they are just trying to be nice?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to as soon as you ask the first question, the way they react. So one thing which I always try to do is that whenever somebody reaches out to me with a personalized invite, I'll always ask them like a question or two and just see where they're going. I've noticed that when people are trying to genuinely help you, they will not be the one to reach out. And because nobody knows that you need help. Like nobody knows who needs help with what. But when you reach out to somebody, you're the one asking for assistance, and that's completely okay. That's the purpose of LinkedIn, to connect and ask for assistance. So that's a really great way to tell. But if somebody messages you and says like, "Hey, I could help you do this, this, this," they're most likely they have an edge in it. They're going to get a commission. They're going to get something like that. I would just be mindful. I don't want to give it a hard no just because I don't know every situation, but I would be very careful.
So he'll just want to really, really thank you on behalf of the university and our sponsor, Republic Bank, and their Power to Make a Difference program. We want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for being here and for facilitating the session for us and for giving us so much very relevant and timely information. So thank you again, students, and do have a good evening. Thank you again, Sohail.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. It was great to be here.